We begin this Sunday morning with the soft war between the U.S. and China reportedly accelerating once again. Coming up, President Trump's leading frontman on fighting China's aggression, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and FBI Director Kash Patel, who is just back from Beijing in an effort to stop the flow of fentanyl into America. As a secret White House memo alleges that Chinese e-commerce company Alibaba is helping China target the United States. The Financial Times reporting that the document says Alibaba gave the People's Liberation Army access to customer data and information on U.S.'s critical software vulnerabilities. Alibaba told the FT that the reporting was, quote, a distortion of the facts. As the Wall Street Journal reports, that Xi Jinping is now holding back vital resources to the U.S. military once again. The Wall Street Journal this past week reporting that China plans to block the shipments of rare earth magnets to any U.S. company tied to the U.S. military, while fast-tracking shipments to other civilian firms that do not do business with the Pentagon. These latest blow-ups just weeks after President Trump met with Xi Jinping in South Korea. And the two said that they agreed to the free flow of rare earth minerals from China to the U.S. for 1 year, as well as soybean purchases in exchange for lowered tariffs and limits to the U.S. entity list. Here's the chairman of the China House Select Committee, Michigan Congressman John Moolenaar, with me Friday on Mornings with Maria on Fox Business, calling for the Securities and Exchange Commission to remove Chinese companies from U.S. exchanges so U.S. investors are not funding the expansion of the CCP and its military.
I was shocked when I found out that our retirement for the federal government was invested in entities that were affiliated with the Chinese military-industrial complex. That's just wrong. We need Wall Street to wake up to this fact, and I think the only way they're going to do it is if they hear from investors. We don't want to fund entities affiliated with slave labor, and we don't want to help the Chinese military-industrial complex because that can be used against our men and women in the armed forces.
Joining me now in this Sunday Morning Futures exclusive is the Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent. Mr. Secretary, it's great to see you this morning. Thanks very much for being here.
Morning, Maria. Always great to be with you.
Is China holding back rare earth magnets from companies tied to the U.S. military right now?
Yeah, Maria, I think that Wall Street Journal reporting is not very accurate. We haven't even finished the agreement, which we hope to have done by Thanksgiving. And I am confident that post our meeting in Korea between the two leaders, President Trump, President Xi, that China will honor their agreements. Xi Jinping has great respect for President Trump. The meeting was conducted very high level, and I am confident that they will honor their agreement, and if they don't, we have lots of levers. But to come out and say this before the agreement's even inked, I think is irresponsible.
Well, you told me after the meeting that you would likely have something signed the following week. We spoke right after that meeting in October. Are you saying that you do not expect the Chinese Communist Party to hold back rare earth minerals from military-related companies in America?
I am saying the agreement is that the magnets will flow freely as they did before April 4th.
Are you expecting them to resume the purchases of soybeans, or are they going to double-cross us on that as well?
Maria, we have lots of levers, and again, they've already started the purchases of soybeans. They've agreed for this buying season to buy 12 million tons, 25 million tons for the next 3 years after that, so a total of 87 million. And then we have lots of other trade agreements that call for soybean purchases. I do believe it's very unfortunate they made pawns out of our great soybean farmers, but we believe that we have remedied that. If you look, prices of soybeans are way up since the meeting in Korea. And I think they will honor this. And again, we have lots of levers too. Just like with the fentanyl, the president took off half the fentanyl tariffs, 10%, and we are going to set up a dashboard of very quantitative metrics that they are going to have to meet to keep the tariffs off.
I know you have a lot of levers, Secretary. I'm sure of it. is one of those levers removing Chinese stocks from U.S. exchanges. China needs the deep liquidity of our capital markets. You've got a lot of companies trading on U.S. exchanges right now. Some of them are actually on entity lists. So is that one of the levers you're going to pull if they say they're not going to send rare earth to our military-related companies?
Maria, all options are on the table, but I think we have to go into this believing that President Xi will keep his word to President Trump. Well, President Trump is the only president who could have negotiated this agreement. The Biden administration was missing for 4 years, and this is how we got here.
Okay. I want to move on to affordability because this is another issue that the Biden administration brought you. Of course, we remember when inflation was at 40-year highs, President Trump has made this a priority, but suddenly there is more talk about the struggles in the cost of living. I spoke with the CEO of Omaha Steaks on Friday on Mornings with Maria, and here's what he told me. Watch this.
So we are headed for what I'm calling, Maria, the $10 a pound reality. By third quarter of 26, families are going to see $10 a pound ground beef in the grocery store. So we're in for a bit of a haul here. I don't believe we'll see price come down in any meaningful way until sometime in 2027.
Secretary, I know that President Trump has been able to rein in inflation, certainly the cost of some foods and energy. But what is your take on what you just heard? He's expecting $10 meat.
Well, Maria, the beef market is a very specialized market. It goes in long cycles, and this is the perfect storm. Again, something we inherited, and there's also, because of the mass immigration, a disease that we've been rid of in North America made its way up through South America. As these migrants, they brought some of their cattle with them. So part of the problem is we've had to shut the border to Mexican beef because of this disease called the screwworm. So we're not going to let that get into our supply chain. And again, I don't want to focus on one product. It's a very important product, and we are laser focused on this issue. And the cost of living, Maria, is two parts. So we inherited this terrible inflation. We are flattening it out. I believe we're going to push it down. Energy prices are down. Interest rates are down. But the real thing that is going to happen that is going to give Americans real purchasing power increases, it's going to be through growth. We passed the one big, beautiful bill. I am also the IRS commissioner, and I can see that working Americans, thanks to the president living up to his campaign promises, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, deductibility of auto loans. If you buy an American car, there are going to be substantial refunds in the first quarter of 26. Working Americans will change their withholdings, and they will get a bump up in their real incomes. So I would expect in the first 2 quarters, we are going to see the inflation curve bend down and the real income curve substantially accelerate. And when those two lines cross, Americans are going to feel it. But Maria, I will tell you what we're not going to do. What we're not going to do is tell the American people that they don't know how they're feeling, which is what the Biden administration did. They said it was a vibe session. You don't know how good you have it. And we are working every day to get these prices down.
So is this the president's response to these worries? He said on Friday he wants to perhaps lower tariffs on beef, on coffee, nuts, spices, and a dozen other agricultural foods. He's also talking about this new proposal to send $2,000 checks to average Americans. Now, does he need congressional approval to do that? But these two moves are, many people believe, in response to these worries about the cost of living.
Well, Maria, and again, this just didn't spring up. We've been working on it since day one. We've had executive orders that were done in January or February, and we've been working on it every day since the administration started. And the other thing, too, is like some of the products you listed, those are a result of we've been working on trade deals with Central and South American countries for 6, 7, 8 months.
Right.
And just this past week, we signed the trade deals. So not only will the tariffs come off some of the things you just listed, like coffee, like cocoa, many other bananas, many other items, that's a result of the trade deals going through, and then we will see this go down. And we're also seeing the import barriers for the other countries come through. So this is a complete trade policy, and now we are going to see it affect the prices.
Secretary, is he going to be sending these direct payments to Americans of $2,000 or more?
We will see. We need legislation for that. And again, President Trump is all about solutions, Maria, and everything is on the table. But I will tell you that, again, thanks to him keeping his campaign promises to working Americans with the working class, no tax and tips, Social Security, overtime, we are going to see a big bump in the first quarter with the refunds and the real incomes. President Trump has also talked about sending $2,000 refunds to, and that would be for working families. Will have an income limit. Those could go out. And then, Maria, the other thing that is going to happen in July, families are going to be able to apply for any child born from January 1st, 2026 for the next 3 years is going to get a Trump account that's $1,000 for each newborn that's going to go in the stock market, and that's going to be invested for the next 18 years. So President Trump is committed to getting the money back to families.
I like that idea. Again, real quick, Secretary, what are you expecting from the Supreme Court? Tariffs have already brought you, what, $200 billion or so. If the Supreme Court goes against you in this upcoming decision, are you going to have to pay back, the U.S. government will have to pay back $200 billion in tariff revenue already collected? What's the backup plan?
Well, Maria, I want to say this in the strongest possible terms. I think that there are 3 points here. Is one, this is one of President Trump's signature policies, and traditionally the Supreme Court does not interfere with a president's signature policy. 2, this is an emergency authority, which is IEPA. President Trump has successfully used that. To, as we talked about earlier, on the rare earths problem, he threatened substantial tariffs on China, and that made the rare earths flow. 2, numerous of the peace deals that he's negotiated, he threatened to put tariffs on the countries, and that got us to the peace deal. 3, when we're talking about fentanyl, we had fentanyl tariffs. And what is more of an emergency than hundreds of thousands of Americans dying every year? No one had been able to get the Chinese to the table with these precursor drugs. Right. And then 3, I would push this back onto the Supreme Court. I don't think this ruling is going to go against us, but if it does, what's their plan for refunds? Because how is this going to get to consumers? Are they just going to hand some of these importers big windfalls? What if the exporters have given big discounts already, and then you're going to give a refund on the tariff? So they'd be making it on both sides. So I don't think the Supreme Court wants to wade into a mess like that.
Yep. When do you think that the public is going to really feel an impact from your moves to rein in the cost of living? How long will that take?
I think we are going to see a substantial acceleration in the economy in the first, second quarter, and I think we are also we're already seeing on many prices. As I said, we're bending that curve down, and the increase in real incomes, I think Americans are going to feel it in the first quarter, second quarter. I think 2026, thanks to President Trump's signature plans, is going to be a great year for working Americans, for the markets. I call it parallel prosperity. Main Street and Wall Street can both do great, but I think Main Street's going to have a great year in 2026. Did
the government shutdown set us back? Are you expecting a big hit to fourth quarter GDP as a result of the 43-day shutdown, Treasury Secretary?
Maria, of course the government shutdown set us back. And look, it's terrible what the Democrats have done. They They've tried to stop President Trump in the courts. They run to the courts, the circuit courts, and join us, and then they lose at SCOTUS, so that didn't work. The legacy media, they tried to stop us with the legacy media, and then they did this terrible shutdown. For what reason? And you know, we've got a 60-day reprieve here. And if they shut the government down again and refuse to negotiate, I'm 100% with the president. The Senate should go straight and forget the filibuster, and Republicans should vote to fund the government without the Democrats.
Wow.
I'm very happy to see 8 brave Democrats came across, but this economic damage is unacceptable. They call it self-harm. They were willing to harm the economy of the United States to benefit a party in chaos.
Yeah. Well, they want to have chaos in President Trump's term. That's pretty clear. Secretary, thank you very much. We'll be watching all of your efforts on all of that. Thank you, sir.
Always good.
Good to see you, Secretary. Thank you. And
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.